technically, a caregiver is somebody who is taking care of somebody with a chronic condition and most likely are degenerating or are not going to be cured. Okay, so it's going to become a lifetime, or either it's leading to someone's death. Mm-hmm. I've talked to churches all over the world, and they all push back in saying, but we can't start a special needs ministry because we're not trained, there's no additional money in the budget, we don't know what to do with people with autism. Minister to the emotional and spiritual crisis that's going on within their family. You don't have to have a special room. But there's a lot of people who just don't have the energy to get their child up, dressed, fed, into church on a Sunday, all right? But their family is still falling apart. And when that child goes home on a Sunday, they're going home to a family that's in crisis. The greatest thing you can do for that family is to get them back on their feet and back connected to God and to some form of fellowship. God loves the weak so much. They are where His power is made perfect.
All right, welcome to the podcast, everyone. We have a special Mother's Day episode with a special mother, Mary Tutterow. She helped start our One by One ministry, which is basically a ministry for, I think, mostly kids with special needs. And it allows them not only to be ministered to, but it also is a way in which parents of kids with special needs can come to church and actually be here in the flesh because there's a place for their children to go to. And she actually has a ministry called Heart of a Caregiver that helps families that are walking through what she walked through, basically coming to grips with the fact that she's going to have her child at home for the rest of her adult life. And things we don't think about as far as caregiving, or people with Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, chronic illness, mental health conditions, Parkinson's disease. It's not just kids with special needs, but there's all sorts of different caregivers and wonderful work that she's doing. So I'm excited to introduce listeners to Miss Mary Tutterow. It was great for me to just be able to sit down and meet a Seacoaster who's not new around here, but new to me. I know you guys are going to enjoy it. But so she's the central mom of this episode, but I thought we would all talk about our moms. So Can I tell you about Barbara Svensson?
Oh my gosh,
y'all good with that? So she was a perfect child all through high school. She was number 5 in her class. She was captain of the cheerleading team. And here's what's crazy is she's Miss Popularity, obviously, because she's captain of the cheerleaders. And everybody thought she was stuck up, popular, but she was deathly shy. So she was extremely shy, extremely misunderstood. Everybody thought she was super stuck up, but she was a sweet, sweet girl that just was very shy. So she was a school teacher until my brother was born in 1975 and then stayed at home until I went off to college in 95. And, this was a different era where that was a little more common, but a lot of my friends had moms going to work, and this was the choice that she made. And I'll just say we really benefited from having her at home. I mean, it was great to have a mom working at home, and tribute to her, my brother and I both started in the lowest reading group in the first grade. And by the third grade, we were in the highest reading group because she was very much so like, nope, y'all aren't going to be. And it wasn't because she was disappointed in us. She's just like, I'm going to get y'all to a different place. My brother ends up number 1 in his class in high school, valedictorian. Amazing. I was probably number 60 something, but that's beside the point. She got me to the highest reading group, but she is a mama bear. I was trying to think of different stories in my childhood to represent this, and the one that I thought of was so where we lived, you could walk out on the front porch and look down the road and see the bus stop where I would stand there waiting for the bus, 4th and 5th grade. Well, there was this girl that I would wait at the bus stop with, and she would be extremely rough with me, like pushing me, hitting me and stuff. And I didn't want to hit back. It was, it was a girl. I don't want to hit a girl. And so I was like in this dilemma. I was like, she's really hurting me and I don't want to defend myself with a girl. And so I told my mom, I was just like, look, here's the situation. But, you don't have to intervene or anything. It just kind of sucks being out there. And so my mom, she decides, I'm going to see for myself. So she kind of like sneak watches, and she sees it come into play, and her roughing me up. And I mean, we're talking, she shouts, "Young lady, you leave my son alone right now." I mean, just the girls, that was the last time that girl ever pushed me. But she also is known for her whistle. So back in the day, before there were cell phones and you could just call your kid and say, "Come on home, dinner's ready." We didn't have that growing up, and she literally could whistle, and we could hear her from anywhere in the neighborhood. Oh, that was Mom. You heard Mom's whistle, right?
So like fingers in the mouth. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just unbelievable. She's a very thorough, organized person. She's never done the Enneagram, but my guess would be that she's one on the Enneagram. I think she would admit that she probably in her earlier years, and maybe would still struggle with judging people who just can't get their act together, because she's just so thorough and detailed. But she's been a wonderful, wonderful mom, wonderful grandmother of her 6 grandchildren, great wife to my dad. So props to Barbara Svensson. There you go. Tell us about your mom.
Oh, I'll tell you about Gail McLeod. She is, I tell people I have the best mom. Barbara sounds great.
Yeah, Barbara sounds good, right?
Gail's pretty solid too. I think they would actually really like each other the more I hear about her. My mom is such a product of the grace and the goodness of God. She was raised by a difficult mom, and a mom who didn't do a great job of loving her well. And if she were sitting here right now, she'd tell you that she made it her mission, especially after becoming a believer, that she would raise her children differently, and she would be a different mom than the mom that she experienced growing up. And
that's not easy, and that's not statistically the route that most people go. Usually you would be the recipient of what she was the recipient of.
Yes. Talk about breaking generational curses and strongholds. Like, she vowed that she would be a different kind of mom, and her kids, all 3 of us, are the most important human beings in her life, and always have been. And she's a mama bear too. Like, she would fight to the death for us. And I tell people, I say it as a funny story, but I actually think it's not that funny. It's really amazing. I tell it in jest, but this shows the kind of mother that she is, because I know it's not common. My memories of her as a kid, I can remember being woken up in the middle of the night by her hand on my head, and she had anointed my head with oil. She would do the same for my brothers, and she would be praying. Under her breath, she would be praying for me. Same for my brothers. And it sounds funny, and we were just like, "Oh, that's Mom," and we would turn back over and go back to sleep and not think anything about it. But what an honor to have a mom who advocated for us in the way that she did, and constantly prayed for and lifted us up. I got a card from her in the mail today just saying, "Hey, I love you. I'm cheering you on. You've got this, the hard stuff. You're doing it, and I'm proud of you." That's the mama that she is. And I am tremendously grateful for the way that she loves Jesus, and the way that she loves my dad, and the way that she loves her kids. She's incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Life of the party too.
Yeah. She's on staff here, right?
She's on staff.
Yeah. What does she do around here?
So she is the administrative assistant at Seacoast Columbia.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Shout outs to Gail.
Shout outs to Gail.
Luke, tell us about Miss Gaikwad.
All right. So Sarah Gaikwad, the sweetest, kindest, most loving, forgiving, generous person I've ever known.
More than Barbara and Gail? That you ever known. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, you can go ahead and talk trash too. She would destroy y'all's moms.
It's not even a competition. Like, it's just.
I did say my mom was the best
basically
mom.
suck.
It's a different league.
You don't know Indian moms, do you?
Listen, you want to do some your mama jokes? We can go there.
All right, my bad. Tell us about Sarah, Miss Sarah.
Sarah is the youngest of 6 siblings. Military kid. Her dad was in the Army, so it was a little transitionary, city to city. She was born in a different city than where we were born and raised. My sister and I were born and raised. That's where they settled eventually. But she is a woman of faith, a intercessor, just such a strong prayer life, and a phenomenal mom, a phenomenal wife. There's a heart of forgiveness that I will never comprehend. I hope to someday comprehend, to be able to even get a portion of that level of depth to being able to forgive. That it's just, she's incredible.
Yeah.
She's an amazing cook. I know I'm biased, but I've heard that from multiple others that have tasted her food. At one point, she had a catering business. The interesting part is she's a vegetarian by choice. I think earlier on, like in her childhood, she decided, hey, non-veg food is not for me. She cooks the best non-vegetarian food.
Yeah.
I don't know how she does it. And my sister and I would always be the taste testers to be like, she'd be like, hey, come to the kitchen and, try this. And like, tell me what it needs. Is it a little bit of this, a little bit of that, whatever it might be. But her baseline was always just like 9 out of 10. Like she was just already there. And maybe we might be like, Mom, it needs a little bit of this, or it's already just great. Don't change anything. I'm so thankful that she raised my sister and I, and my dad raised my sister and I to be non-vegetarians because I love meat.
Yeah.
But being a vegetarian, she's got a phenomenal ability to pick whatever's presented ingredients-wise and just come up with a incredible mouth-watering dish that you will remember.
Making me hungry, man.
And the thing that I think I partly get frustrated by, but also just overly appreciate about her is, for her, almost every meal is a gourmet from scratch meal. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Jeez.
There's no I mean, I'm not saying there's no leftovers occasionally.
Right.
But like her and dad are very much like this is what we're gonna make for breakfast, and we're gonna be washing dishes.
They're like home foodies.
What we cooked, everything's washed and put away, and then let's make something for lunch and let's make something for dinner, depending on, at least in this season of life. But it's always this is culture, this is family, this is what we do. And so even if you're watching TV, you're sitting and peeling something, or you're meal prepping something to then, which to me is a little frustrating because I'm like, that's a lot of work for 20 minutes of real good food, and then
clean it up.
And then you got to do it again in 4 hours, and so.
I wish I had that love to do that because it would be healthier. I mean, anything I cook, and I cook Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, it's quick. I mean, it's healthy, but it's crock pot sort of thing.
Right.
I do love to cook, but I'll do it very sparingly because I'm like, this is way too much work. Yeah, she's just the most fun-loving, joyful life of the party.
Awesome. Is Gail a good cook? I forgot. My mom's a great cook too.
She's so good.
My favorite food is not lasagna. It's my mom's lasagna. Like when people say, "What's your favorite food?" I'm like, "It's my mom's lasagna."
1000%.
Yeah, not just regular lasagna.
Nobody does it better.
All right, so I'll tell y'all just how jacked up our leadership team is here at Seacoast. When I was on the campus pastor
you don't
team,
mean like with Jack Hoy?
Yeah. When I was on the campus pastor team, I was a campus pastor for 13 years. We had this retreat pretty much every year, and it was in the mountains. And I forgot we were doing some sort of a share activity in which we had to share something like shocking stories that happened in our childhood or something like that. Bottom line is the story that I told obviously left an impression on me because it was so wild and abrasive of a situation. But we're getting ready to go to the beach, and so we're, it's me and my brother, we're running around getting things together. Well, my mom is extremely modest, and you dress a proper way, you don't reveal certain, and so she has her bathing suit pulled all the way up, but she has not tied her strings yet. So she's walking around, trying to get, I'm like 3 years old. I'm like, Mom, trying to get her attention and everything. I take one of those strings. I'm like, Mom, pull it down. And so she basically screams, that's how I remember it as a child, runs in the back of the house because she was just like, my son just pulled my bathing suit down. And so I told that story to the campus pastors, and I'm telling you guys, for about 2 years, there was a saying, anytime someone saw me, they said, Joey's mom. Joey's mom. And there's people like, why are people saying Joey's mom? I'm like, dadgummit, I gotta go into the store. We got a jacked up leadership team. We do. Joey's mom.
Here's the thing, with most guys, we get to we turn from 12 years old to adults to 12 years old real quick. Stuff like that is just giving you crap.
Well, I'm the dummy for saying this on the podcast because now podcast listeners are going to say Joey's mom.
You put it out there.
Yeah.
All right, Miss Mary Tutterow, we're happy to have had her on this podcast, and now you get to listen to her now. Well, welcome our viewers and our listeners. We're here with, and I haven't asked you how to say your last name. I'm Miss Tutterow.
Yeah, good
Mary
job.
Tutterow.
Good job.
Nice.
I've been called a lot of stuff.
So we've been talking a little bit here and there, texting back and forth. You actually gave me some good reading to prepare for this talk. It's a lot to get into. It was a challenge. I'm like, man, there's so many directions we can go into. And the one conversation we had off air, I was like, oh my gosh, what do we talk about? There's so much.
Well, Joey, you are my target audience.
Yeah.
Because especially the church world is not, it's coming around, but the church world doesn't quite realize how many fingers of the church and of ministry this goes into.
Mm-hmm. And I'll risk bragging on myself, but I really appreciate when people say good questions, because I just, that means a lot, because I want to come up with questions that are not only engaging for listeners, but also questions that you think are valuable and worth talking about. So I appreciate that.
Well, I call it investigative reporting because really, truly, this is a very hidden thing.
Right.
And you're getting right at it, because not only is it hidden from plain sight of a lot of the world, but these are deep, dark struggles that people don't even want to say, I wrestle with because I shouldn't.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, we're going to get into all of it, but tell me I just got to know you. In fact, for people listening that are from the Seacoast world, Jen Cameron reached out to me. She's our local missions director. I think I said that right. And she reached out to me, told me about you, said, I really need to get you on this podcast. And so you've been here for a while? Seacoast?
Oh, yeah.
Long time?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Scott said, you're having Mary on? That's awesome. So I just got to know you for the first time, but you've been here a long time.
Well, not as long as, but I remember Vern Jensen.
Okay.
He was on the stage when I started. But, as a matter of fact, we go back so far as to there was no 1 by 1.
Oh, wow.
And
tell people what 1 by 1 is.
Which is special needs ministry.
Right.
And there was no Tim Tebow Foundation Night to Shine. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine and I brought it from a church in Charlotte. Mm-hmm. And it came as the Luke 14 banquet. And I think we had 75 people show up to the first one. And now, Tim Tebow took them over, and it's thousands of people with special needs come and be celebrated.
Wow.
So we've been around a long time.
Yeah. So I came here in 2002 as an attender. Am I older school than you? Or were you here?
I'm too old to want to remember. I don't know.
You don't even want to remember.
I don't even want to remember.
All right. Well, I want to know about Mary Addison.
Oh, precious angel. That's our adult daughter with special needs.
Yeah. How old is she?
She's 33. Just turned 33 this month.
Dang.
She's mentally and physically challenged. When she was born having something called infantile spasms, which are a very bad form of a seizure disorder.
Okay.
They told us that if she lived, she'd be profoundly challenged, but that most children that manifest that kind of seizure that young in life, and back then, that was 33 years ago, they didn't have all the interventions that they have now.
Right.
So the fact that she's even still alive is just a flat out miracle. But
not expected.
Not at all. As a matter of fact, we brought her home to die.
Oh my gosh. Within a year, within months, like what were y'all thinking?
Well,
what were doctors telling y'all?
Any minute. She was having 500 seizures a day.
Oh my God.
And so, and I would hold her and just expect any seizure to take her life. That's what I'd been told. Any of these could just stop her heart and she'll die in your arms.
I cannot even
So we
imagine.
lived a really long time waiting for her to die.
I cannot even imagine.
And then she just kept living.
Did the seizures ever decrease with age?
Yes. Fascinatingly enough, your dad, right?
Well, yeah.
She got roseola around 105 temperature, and we realized that totally calmed it down. And this child that couldn't look at us, couldn't anything, all of a sudden looked at us and went, oh!
Yeah.
And we went, oh, something's happened here.
Yeah.
So, but she has her own language. She technically, you wouldn't understand what she's saying, but we do. And she can make her needs known. And she went all through school. She has left-sided hemiplegia. When she was 2, she had half of her brain removed. So, we've been through it, not just having someone who is cognitively challenged in the family, but she's been through a lot physically. A lot of surgeries, a lot of falls, fell down the stairs, had a seizure at the top of the stairs, broke her back, split her head open. That kind of stuff happens routinely in our family.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll just say right out of the gates, if I ask a question that comes across insensitive or just inappropriate, let's educate me and our listeners and call me out on it. Because I want to ask, what, I'm trying to think of the right wording, but what sort of age is she functioning in? And is that an even okay question to
That's
ask?
okay, but I will give you a technical answer. She has splinter skills. So, some things she's incredibly high functioning.
Okay.
Some things not at all. She has perfect pitch.
Gotcha.
So she loves music and all that kind of stuff. But I would say, in general, if you saw her and she greeted you, you'd think she was about 12.
Gotcha. So was there a point in time when, and what's your husband's name?
When?
Was there a point in time when you and Wynn kind of went from, like you said, we brought her home waiting for her to die, when y'all kind of crossed a line, recognizing, and maybe even the medical field was like, doesn't look like she's going to, pass away. And to where your mind had to grapple with, oh, we're going to have this young lady with us, perhaps for the rest of your lives.
Well, that's a huge question to ask, because that is such a true thing that I was terrified to fall in love with her. Oh. She was my first child, and I was so afraid of her dying that I never let myself love her like a mother would love a baby. She was a science project. We were constantly hauling her to hospitals all over the country, experimenting with surgeries and drugs and therapies and,
Were you successful in that? Like keeping like a wall?
Well, no, because there's
I know you're not, I know you love her now, but I'm saying.
Because there's a loving God,
Right.
And I was so terrified to let myself love her. And in the meantime, though, Joey, our marriage was on the rocks. I had been working full time, and we were just going to hire a nanny and keep right on with that protocol. And that wasn't going to happen. So our income is now cut in half because I'm not working anymore. I was a partner in a public relations firm at the time. So a huge amount of money went out the door when I stopped working. And so now our marriage is in crisis. We're having financial problems. And certainly I had only been a pew sitter as far as church and my faith was concerned. I was really hating God for letting unleashing all this wrath on our family.
So were you saying basically that there was no relationship there with you and God? Like
Absolutely
you
not.
And
Absolutely
pretty pissed
not.
off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If there is a God.
Yeah.
But one night in her nursery, as I'm nursing her about 2:00 in the morning, I was so angry and I shouted out to God, really for the first time in my life. And I said, how did Mary, the mother of Jesus, watch her child suffer and die like I'm having to watch mine?
Wow.
And I heard him speak to my heart. Let her suffering be for my glory.
Wow.
Blew my mind.
Do you feel like that question that you asked was birthed from the Holy Spirit?
Well, at the moment, it felt like it was just birth from grief. I mean, I was just sobbing, nursing this little baby with my tears running all over the baby. And it was more kind of like, I am really mad. Mm-hmm. And I don't like how you run things.
Right.
And I'm not going to believe you.
Right.
But man, he nailed me. And then I was like a kid with a Playboy. I couldn't get enough of the Bible.
Right.
And the more I was running and reading the Bible, my husband's going, stop it. You're acting like a Jesus freak. I don't want to hear that name, you know?
Yeah.
And so causing even more conflict and more mess, but something had been unleashed. And I know that that was the beginning of a very powerful journey of us to discover. He talks about weakness throughout his word and how he stood like a lamb in front of his accusers and just so many profound things, Joey. And in her weakness, she taught us more about our Lord than any amount of scripture or classes or anything ever could have, because she drove us beyond ourselves. Mm-hmm. She drove us to our knees.
Yeah.
She drove us to where no amount of money could fix what the problem was. No amount of teaching from somebody else could ever teach us. It was this beautiful little broken baby who just kept forcing us deeper and deeper and deeper into supernatural love.
Yeah, yeah. So we're going to get into what Heart of a Caregiver is, but you would say you have a ministry that you for
Absolutely.
sure have, we'll tell people about the literature that you've written and all that. But that, so that moment when you cried out to God, would you say that was a turning point in going from feeling sorry for yourself, being angry at God, to more of a hopeful? Because that's I mean, going through a lot of what you've sent me and reading up on your website and all that, I mean, if I could put it into one sentence, it sounds like you want to offer hope and restoration for parents that are, or any caretakers that are in your shoes that are walking in similar shoes that you've walked through. It's just hope. So is that when the hope was birthed? I mean, I guess so.
Yeah.
Hearing God.
I mean, it was just A, he would speak to me. Yeah. B, that when I raced to the Bible and couldn't get enough of the Bible, I'm reading, he chooses the foolish. He chooses the weak. The meek will inherit the earth, and suddenly I'm kind of going, there might just be a plan here. What? He hasn't abandoned us. As a matter of fact, I think I'm getting ready to see him bigger and brighter than I've ever seen him before. And it wasn't because he all of a sudden blew some holy smoke my way and the lights went on. I mean, this took years, Joey. Mm-hmm. This took years of him taking me by the hand through his word and showing me things through, our brokenness as human beings to the truth of his word and where it really, it was powerful. Mm-hmm. But it took a long time.
Right. So, I mean, may sound like a silly question, but what is the plan? Like, how was that question answered?
Our job on this earth as human beings is to give of ourselves sacrificially, to lay down our lives for one another, just like Jesus did, and to give. I mean, trees bear fruit that they can't eat. They make oxygen that they don't breathe. A flower exudes fragrance it can't even smell. All of what God creates is here for someone else. We are here to give ourselves away. We live in a world that is here to accumulate, accomplish, achieve, recognition. The kingdom of God is about giving it away and going lower, serving and caring. And until we learn that, we are not being the creatures that God intended us to be.
Mm-hmm. I think what's neat is we're talking about something very specific that delivers universal truth to any and everybody, not just caretakers.
No, it's not just about caregivers.
Right.
I mean, and that's the thing I do talk to a lot of pastors because they are caregivers, and a lot of them are broken with the same things that break people like me.
Yeah.
Because when you are dealing with a hurting humanity, We are all broken in some way, shape, or form. But that's not a bad thing. There's tremendous gift in brokenness. There's tremendous growth in brokenness. And in ministering to brokenness from a place of compassion and understanding that you've already been there and you know how to get out of the hole, it's really the whole point of who we are as followers of Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
It still might be kind of esoteric. This is hard to cover in just
I know.
an hour.
I know. No, but you're doing great. So when, now you're able to look back 33 years. And I mean, like, it's crazy. These are such deep questions just to throw out there. But like, do you see your daughter Mary as having a special purpose that's connected to her condition, and you having a special calling as her mother?
Well, yes and no. Yes, because we said yes to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one thing that people find so shocking about our family is that we said yes to it. We didn't say, this is something horrible that has to be fixed. We said, yes, we are willing to see the gift of brokenness, eventually, right? So, yes, but then, no, this isn't anything unique to Mary Addison or to our family or me, because this is how our Lord wants to see all of us function together as a reconciled body.
Mm-hmm.
That we would, it's not just about people working with people with special needs. It isn't just about people who are taking care of a husband with Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, cancer, or whatever. No, it is a shift in perspective that causes us to all function from a place to love instead of to fear, because we're all functioning in fear right now, so many of us. When you shift over to that economy of love, it's going to take you lower. It's going to take you deeper. It's going to cause you to give away more of yourself.
Yeah.
But it's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
So no, it's the calling of all humanity.
Right.
It just happens that it came to us through caring for this little girl.
Yeah. Would you ever consider yourself in a place where the circumstances aren't a challenge to you spiritually or mentally? Like almost like when we talk about grief, and we've talked about grief a lot on this podcast recently, we talk about grief as something that you never walk all the way through. Like you're never done with your grief. You are in a place of peace and wholeness when it comes to your parenting and how Mary Addison is, and you taking care of her for the rest of your life. Like you have found peace, you have found wholeness. Like is that, I guess, is that a proper placement of it? Like, did you get to a place where, now I have peace, now I am at a place to where it's not a struggle anymore? And I don't mean like...
No.
Yeah.
Oh, let me turn down the light on my halo.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. I mean, it's a constant... Here we go.
Yeah.
Will I choose... And I mean, I guess this is the most powerful thing that caregivers come to realize in our groups is peace is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
There's always your egotistical flare-up that wants to go, and put all this in its place. But when you come to understand that the power is yours because peace is a choice, God's always giving it and offering it.
Yeah.
And once you learn that it's a choice, that gives you total freedom. So seizures, Parkinson's, my crazy neighbor, politics, all that is not in control of how I feel. I'm in control of how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm going to get ripped out of the frame or not, I just have to choose it.
Right.
Okay. So now choosing it is a little harder than just remembering that I can choose it and I don't have to blame you because you made me angry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot harder.
Do you have a good therapist? Because if not, you'd be a good therapist.
Well, the good Lord.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
I'm serious. We had school guidance counselors, but we, and studying His Word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's all in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So your day to day with Mary Addison
is hard.
right? And she, because of like, if she's functioning at like a 12-year-old level, if it wasn't for the seizures, could she be left alone? Like, can she?
No.
Okay.
She could hurt herself.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But okay, Joey, and this is the other thing that we walk through in this ministry is, first of all, it's not just Mary Addison. It's not just my mother-in-law with dementia.
Right.
There's 1,000 things that come at you every day that make it hard to choose peace.
Right.
It's the IEP paperwork I had to do all through her school years. Mm-hmm. It's the politics of not being able to get what she needs when she needs it. I mean, it's the struggle of other kids on the playground who call her names. It's and I'm just talking in her world, but in my own world, it's I don't look good as you do. We don't have as much money as you do. All day long, every day, you're being challenged with, I'm going to let this just really get up under my saddle. Mm-hmm. And I'm going off on this.
Yeah.
But every day, you have a choice and go, well, if that's how you want to feel today.
Right.
But you don't have to.
Right.
And so it's choice.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's different than grief, and I'm certainly not a grief counselor, and I always send the folks who then lose someone that they're caring for to grief counseling. I mean, I did grief share 4 times trying to comfort myself on the daughter I never had, that kind of stuff. So no, don't ask me questions about grief, and I can't say how they're similar or not.
Right.
But this is a wonderful opportunity to not allow someone else's brokenness to make me more broken.
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. So I understand kind of the general application of living for others and, what we're here on this earth for. You've done a marvelous job showing that, but you also have a specific ministry that is specific to caregiving. Some stats that I read that you sent, 40% of caregivers have thought about suicide. I think 60% have either been burned out or feel like they're burned out. Technically, what is a caregiver? Was I a caregiver when we had 4 kids under the age of 5? I mean, is that caregiving? It seems, and just to get our listeners thinking caps on, we're talking Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, chronic illness, mental health conditions, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, someone who's had a stroke, traumatic brain injuries. These are examples of people who need caregiving.
Yes.
I would not be a caregiver in the technical sense, correct?
No, you were a parent.
I'm a parent.
You're a parent, and I think that's the hardest group of people to reach. Like when I was young and doing this, I wasn't a caregiver. I was a parent, and I should be able to do this better. I was a wonderful parent to our son.
And when was William born?
2 years after Mary Addison. 2 years after. And but I really appreciate you asking that because technically, a caregiver is somebody who is taking care of somebody with a chronic condition, which all of those are chronic, and most likely are degenerating or are not going to be cured. Okay, so it's going to become a lifetime, or either it's leading to someone's death. Mm-hmm. Whereas when you're parenting, up and onward, kids, and people are getting more and more independent. Whereas technically, if you're a caregiver, the people that you are caring for are getting less and less independent.
Gotcha.
Kind of that.
Yeah.
Or will never be independent.
Yeah. So I was talking to my therapist about a family situation in my family where someone has been diagnosed with dementia, and she gave some advice that it wasn't like shocking, but it was not expected. I'd never heard this before. She talked about the importance of a wife of someone who has dementia, or a son or daughter of a father or mother who has dementia, to do what they can to maintain that natural role. And if you go into caregiving, then you start to lose some of that natural role, and that's not a good, it's like a juxtaposition, I think. But I think in your case, how do you, if you're a caregiver to Mary Addison, how do you also maintain, you're also her mother? Is that even a logical question? I mean,
super logical question.
Yeah.
But it makes me a better mother because she can't be what I was taught you need to be in order to be a person of any value. So, I mean, and this is part of what kicks in the heart of the caregiver is when you start, when the wife starts saying, yeah, well, his name is Henry, but he doesn't remember that. And my name is Gladys, but he doesn't remember that either. And he never remembers to take out the garbage. When that becomes a source of irritation, you're the one that's broken now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because he can't. And so that's what became with Mary Addison was she taught me, she shattered the boundaries of what it means to be human and to be a person of value.
Dang.
Right?
Right.
Because
she wasn't going to have a career. She wasn't going to have this
cute
thing that
grandkids
she
for
goes
me.
out. Right.
Right? She wasn't going to have a husband and take care of us at Easter and have us over. You know, and all that stuff that we've all
Wait, I need to be inviting my parents over for Easter and doing the meal?
Do it, Joey.
But my mom cooks so well.
Come on now.
Gosh,
but it's a pre-package that we have in our heads about who people are and who I married. And, you know, we walk through this in the early of, you know, you're a baby and I'm here to take care of you. But then one day the roles reverse and she's there to take care of you, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
Those are hard roles to let go of. But when you start realizing that they're just worldly preconceived roles, that's not who Jesus said we are. That's not where our value comes from because we fit somebody else's standard. I mean, look at all the different cultures and everything else there are. And no human being. So when you start being able to live in love with grace,
mm-hmm.
loving humanity as it is, the stinking rotten mess that it appears to be, becomes something so much easier.
Yeah. I mean, this is a really tough question to ask, and I would imagine it would be tough to answer, but was there ever any resentment towards Mary? Like your actual daughter?
Yes. She went around. She brought out rage in me because I was a very controlling person. I ran a big company. You know, I'm very smart. And taking care of her turned me into green Jell-O stuffed into sweatpants. I didn't know what to expect. I had no amount of education, and the frustration and anger. I mean, I am not an angry person, but she brought out rage in me because I couldn't get a grip on it, and it was making me look bad.
Yeah.
Right? It was just the fact that it was making people look at me and look at our family was making me furious. And we went to Universal Studios, and that child had to walk around Universal Studios with an imprint of my hand on the back of her legs from where I hit her. Yeah, it brings out the worst in you.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's something we can't control.
Yeah.
You can't control Alzheimer's.
Right.
You know, you can't control a kid that doesn't understand boundaries and rules and never will. How do you ever even go out in public with that again?
Mm-hmm.
How do you ever even find a college student that can babysit her?
Yeah.
So how will we ever have weekends again alone together? I mean, and suddenly it all just starts building and building and building and I become a nut job.
The things that, unless someone talks to someone in your shoes, they just don't even think about. Right. Like, I mean, seriously, like most of our conversation in the last 30 minutes and the other conversation we had, it's just stuff I don't really even think about. Like, for example, everybody needs to be in church. Church is a place of fellowship and you need to get in church, and you hear that as, okay, figure that out for me.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that, Joey. Yeah, thanks a lot for saying that, because this is the Mary Tutterow, get me on my soapbox.
That's what podcasts are for, soapboxes.
Yeah, okay. Love me, but only if I can come to you for 2 hours on a Sunday. And our little family was just drowning in, and again, the statistics are worth every church understanding this. You want to help people with mental illness or mental health issues. This is a huge swimming pool of depression and isolation and abuse and neglect. And 85% of all marriages that have a child with disabilities will probably end in divorce. If it's autism, it's 90%. This is big family ministry. This is big marriage ministry. This is big foster care. These folks that have taken in other kids that come with hidden disabilities. They might not come to your home in a wheelchair, but they come scarred from trauma.
Mm-hmm.
That's different than raising your own kids, right? Okay. I mean, this permeates all kinds of levels of the church, and these are people who they can't come. The wife who you used to see them as a couple every Sunday, he now has dementia. They've disappeared. They don't come. They can't come to church anymore. But they need to be embraced by the community more than ever with acceptance and love. I mean, it truly, and you asked me kind of like, how did I get to know Jen? Because we used to have these profound discussions about local missions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm right here, sitting in my house in Snee Farm, right around the corner, isolated and alone with no one to help me care for my daughter when my husband had to go work. Where's the church?
Yeah.
And that's why this is all mostly online, because I started all these groups at Seacoast in a little room, and people started coming. But then I noticed that they kept going, this is so hard for me to get here. I had to pay a babysitter,
Right.
I had to find a daycare for my husband, I can't come on a regular basis. So that's why this all went online.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking churches like this, but being now on the digital team here at Seacoast, we've looked at some other churches and heard some of their philosophies, and we see our online presence as a specific, intentional ministry that we offer. And there's some churches that they see it as, we're not going to put hardly any emphasis on that because people need to be here physically. And I just think that your story, the shoes that you walk in, turns that completely upside down. It's just like, oh my gosh, thank the Lord for online stuff.
It is.
I mean, the internet.
But it's yes, because we mostly go to church online.
Yeah.
It's very special, because there are so many Sundays she can't even come to one by one. She's had seizures. She's a long story. But you do hit a very important point, because you do need other people. Mm-hmm. You do need to connect, with other people. You need to have a sense of community. And again, we do that through our online small groups, and I know I talked to the people that produce Grief Share for a long time. They wanted to take over this ministry and start doing it, but they didn't, because they saw their ministry as a marketing tool for churches to get more physical people to their church. Right? And I'm going, but this can't work that way, because these are people who physically can't come to a brick and mortar building. Mm-hmm. And they need to know that you see them. And so our online groups, and now Grief Share is doing online groups, because they've seen the need too. People in pain have to connect to other people who understand. You do need the body. You do need other human beings, not just the teacher of the study.
Yeah. How have we done as Seacoast Church? And obviously, I know we're a culture who wants to learn and have our ears open to situations that we may not understand or may not be doing a good job in ministering to. How have we been doing?
Well, unbelievably great. And, we went to 1 million churches before we ever came here. And y'all were the first church that ever said, I don't know, but let's try, right?
So you helped start One by One.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I think there were like 5 of us on a team or a committee or something. But Seacoast said, we'll find a room. By golly, we'll give it a go. But I think the other piece of this is you are willing to look outside of what church looks like, because not only can the people not come to church, okay, but here's one of the biggest hindrances, okay? Please hear me. This is just so important. Mm-hmm. I've talked to churches all over the world of different denominations, and they all push back in saying, but we can't start a special needs ministry because we don't have room, we don't have staff, we're not trained, there's no additional money in the budget. We don't know how to take care of people with Alzheimer's. We don't know what to do with people with autism. And where do we even start? Do you start with the 2-year-old?
Right.
I just had a church contact me, and they have a 10-year-old who's nonverbal from Uganda. The family's just moved here, and they're worshiping at their church, and they just don't know what to do to embrace this family.
Which seems sincere, like as far as the sentiments that you just said, that seems like we don't know. I mean, especially like a tiny little church where the pastor's the only one on staff. It's like, I'd love to help. I don't know how.
Exactly. Minister to the emotional and spiritual crisis that's going on within their family. You don't have to have a special room for the heart of the caregiver, which says, I get it. I know what's hurting. I know what's falling apart. I know how you feel. You are seen. You are loved by this church because we're offering you this. It doesn't cost anything
to minister to the caregiver.
Because what good is it for a child to come to church, be dragged to church or pushed to church in their wheelchair or with their autism where they're not understood, okay, where they're corralled in a place where they can be safe for 2 hours. I love special needs ministry. It's very important. Please don't hear me say something different. But there's a lot of people who just don't have the energy to get their child up, dressed, fed into church on a Sunday, all right? But their family is still falling apart. And when that child goes home on a Sunday, they're going home to a family that's in crisis. The greatest thing you can do for that family is to get them back on their feet and back connected to God and to some form of fellowship with people who understand.
And that means going out to where they are.
You've got to go to where they are.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the whole thing about the online ministry, the church being online, being very intentional, is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I have a dear friend who's an alcoholic who could never come, will never come. Still, her life is in disarray, but online Seacoast is her lifeline.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, this is the point in the recording where I just try to cram as much as I can to these.
Wow, come Holy Spirit.
Yeah, I'm curious how William plays into the picture. I mean, we're talking only 2 years apart. I'm thinking, do you try to give him, the most normal life as possible, or do you teach him through who his sister is and what this means? Like how do you take care of William? And I mean, this is the tricky territory as he's going to live a normal life. Like, is that even proper for me to say? Because I want to ask you how you would feel about someone saying, wow, you live such an abnormal life. I'm so sorry that you have to do stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you're firing me up, Joey. Okay, well, it depends. Are you putting on the lens of the world or the lens of who William is meant to be as a child of God?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay? So as far as having his parents be at every football game, basketball game, play, all that kind of stuff, tutor him through SATs, the whole 9 yards, we did the best we could. Were we as good as most other parents? Probably not. Okay, because we were in the hospital a lot. He was, as the world loves to frame these kids, he was one of the glass kids. And people, our friends used to talk about it all the time. What about William? What about William? What about William? But I'm a mom, and I might cry saying it, but because of what he had to be a part of, he's one of the most, here it goes.
I understand.
Loving, compassionate giants of a man.
Mm.
I know. And when he got married recently, all of his groomsmen got up and didn't rib him about how well he drinks beer. And he went to Clemson, by the way. But about what a stalwart, incredible human being and friend he knows how to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's seen it all and he understands that we're all broken. And that the only way we get through life, is when other people plant seeds of grace around our brokenness. And he's so good at doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. When somebody else can see you broken, hurting, wounded, and not go, wow, you need a therapist. But they know how to plant those seeds of grace all around that brokenness and watch what God will bring forth out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, our family looks real different.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a feeling the Lord I'm one of these people that I feel him shifting his church in a big, big way. And caring is an essential thing. It's not just for local missions. Literally caring for the brokenness all around us every day is what we're here to do. We're here to be salt and light.
Right. How about society? You had said something earlier in the conversation as far as, and I'm putting words in your mouth, so this may not be what you said, but it sounds like as a government, society, we're not set up really to take into consideration families like yours, are we?
No.
Give me some examples.
Well, I mean, we are budgeted, from a societal standpoint, we're budgeted out. We're fringe because you're never going to be a taxpayer. So, and you're on the dole. I mean, there's some states that it's incredibly wonderful to be a person with disabilities, but the majority of states, it's a very difficult long haul. And then as far as like facilities and care and additional caregivers and all those kind of things and nursing homes and all for people with dementia and Alzheimer's and all, there are a lot of wonderful facilities, but right now they're struggling because nobody wants to work there. So we are a society, but Joey, that's because God loves the weak so much. They are where his power is made perfect. And so the war on the weak is real. The fact that whatever it is, 65% of our population or 70% of our population is people over the age of 65. Something amazing. There's going to be more old people than there are children. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
but
that's crazy.
If you look at it through spiritual eyes, it's because of what happened in our family and happens in all these other families that can get it. The gift of brokenness and the truth of who we are and our calling as human beings. And that the weak are here to call out our best, our ability to love supernaturally. You could see that there'd be an enemy.
Yeah.
Big enemy pushback against these people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and I feel like there's a tension here with living with a giving heart and being salt and light, and the analogy or not an analogy, just the realness of trees bearing fruit that they don't even partake of. But there's also major importance in you taking care of yourself so that you can take care of your daughter. Self-care, basically. I mean, is that something that you had to learn and accept as like as a value? Like, I've got to take care of myself also?
Yeah, but doing this hard work was the self-care.
Gotcha.
It's inner healing.
Gotcha.
So that then, truly, like God's word says, you're on firm foundation. Okay? There's not a whole lot that can rip you out of the frame. And you've become so used to walking in what's not of this world, that what is of this world becomes less real than what is not of this world.
Wow. I'm sure I'll listen to that a few times when I listen back to that.
Man, you've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when he said, let her suffering be for my glory. I'm thinking, what? But it's real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love how it helped you. That statement may have made me mad if I were in your shoes. How would you feel about a parent? And this is like a little curveball question. A parent in your shoes who's multi-billionaire, and they decide, you know what? I love my daughter, but I'm also going to maintain the sort of life that I want. And so I'm going to allow my daughter to live somewhere else, and I'll visit her every day. I will be involved in her life, but I don't want this burden on me, and I've got the financial means to continue about my life, visit her regularly, and not be the primary caregiver. Completely selfish.
Well, first of all, I'm not going to judge because everybody has their reasons.
Yeah.
Even my mother-in-law, we took care of her the best we could. My husband was an only child, but at the end, she needed to be somewhere, or else we didn't know how to do the medical things that needed to be done and all that, okay? So everybody has their reasons, and you can't pass judgment because you just described the decisions that millions of Americans make every day to put their children in group homes and their parents in nursing homes, okay? So it's not just billionaires. I mean, people all over the world all the time are going, can't take it, dad's got to go to a nursing home.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, I'm not here to judge whether that's right or wrong or any of that, but what I am here to say is if we can help you shift your perspective on what's going on here and what the real self-care is and what you can get to that is rock solid truth, you might make a different choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I know the answer, but if you were in that position of having billions of dollars, you wouldn't have done anything differently.
Well, if at the outset I was, we probably would have taken the early train out, but we would have missed all of this. That's kind of the point of this ministry.
Yeah. Tell us about your ministry, all the stuff that you're doing. I want to show the YouTube watchers.
Yeah, well...
so we've got the peaceful caregiver from
the
stress
heart of the
to
caregiver
blessed.
came first, and that was really out of my journals of sleeping on the floor in hospitals for the first 7 years of her life. And I just met so many other broken and hurting families. I was kind of like, can I share this with you? This might help you like it's helping me. And so many people wanted it written down that I self-published, and then eventually somebody found me, and I have a publisher and an agent and all that kind of stuff. But it came out of my own brokenness and woundedness, and it's the comfort that God gave us. And then once that was written, then the peaceful caregiver I was still walking around with my hair on fire, not having a whole lot of peace. I had a lot of understanding, and I had a lot of scripture to stand on, but I still was a hot mess. And the peaceful caregiver, in it, I give 5 steps on the path to peace, things to practice to keep you grounded and being a servant, in servant mode.
So you do online small groups.
And we do online retreats.
Online retreats. Wow. I mean, you have to have people that join these small groups and retreats who are at wit's end, like where you were at the very beginning. I mean,
Yes.
Do you have people coming to you that they have not moved an inch in knowing how to have peace?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, and I think the biggest thing that made me go online was a woman from Ireland called me. I don't know how she got my number or found my website or whatever, but she called me and said, I have the pills right now to kill my son and then to kill myself because nobody should have to live this way. Please talk to me. That was when I went, okay, we got to go online here. It's got to move beyond our groups at Seacoast and other churches that are finding out about it. It has got to get out there.
Yeah. Well, for someone like that, where do you start? Because you can't give them what you acquired over decades. Like, where do you start with that person as far as like what's one of the first things you tell them?
I know how you feel.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
I have been there. I have wanted to kill myself and my child. I understand. You're not alone.
Yeah.
Joey, I'd like to say that, groups, support groups are very much full of empathetic people, but it's kind of like a whole bunch of people with the same problem jumping down into a mud pit and everybody just wallowing in each other's problems. And yes, you do get good clues on where do I put mom? What's a good drug to take or not take? Those kind of things. But as far as getting out of, like what this girl had called me about, but it's when you are able to jump down in the hole with these people, but you've got the ladder out. I know the way out. That's compassion. That's compassion. I'm not just going to jump down there with you and wallow around with you. I'm going to get down in the hole with you and love you and tell you I've been here, but come with me. I know how to get out of the hole. And just that little ray of light is what most people just need. You know, I'm not a therapist or anything, but that is a huge game changer for people who are just drowning in this.
Yeah.
There are a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. So how can people support what you're doing? And then, I mean, do you even have the margin for, like, do you turn anybody down who needs
Thanks to Seacoast, no.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Thanks to Seacoast, no.
Yeah. And what does that mean? Just because we got your back, basically?
You do. You offer scholarship when people can't. You know, I got Jen on speed dial.
Yeah.
But there's, you know, and I do offer a couple of live retreats and stuff like that, that because people do want to physically get out from under their situation. And so we do live retreats. We're doing one in May at Camp St. Christopher. Some people just want to physically touch other people who get them, you know?
Yeah.
I get a lot of women who are snowed in Minnesota with a man with Alzheimer's.
Gotcha.
Who need a lot of love and support.
Yeah.
You know, they can't get out in the snow. They can't even shovel the driveway like he used to do. I mean, this is a lot.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But the other big part about it is just seeing this. I'm so glad you said you've been a pastor and you never really understood about this underbelly of taking care of people with things.
Right.
There's a big, big underbelly, and it's a big group of people, and it affects there are people within almost every kind of ministry within your church. The seniors, the foster care folks, the couples, you know, young couples. I mean, it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to read just a couple of things that testimonials, and I want to say they're referring to the heart of the caregiver, but I guess it doesn't matter which book they're talking about. But this book changed my perspective on our whole situation. It taught me to realize that I don't have to be a superwoman. It showed me how to live a balanced life and see my special needs child as a gift. I highly recommend this book to any caregiver. I have been participating in various Bible studies for more than 12 years, and this study by far exceeded anything I have read in the past. I have never seen such logical and well-planned scriptural references tied in with practical life application. That's pretty powerful stuff there. I'm marveling at all of this and learning a lot as well. Do you ever think about your daughter in the new kingdom and how that's going to be different?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's unbelievable. That's just unbelievable.
Without being able to quote scripture at me.
Yeah.
Or holding me accountable to anything, just her suffering.
Yeah.
Her being beat to hell. Literally, she has been beat to hell by seizures. 33 years of seizing every day of her life.
Yeah.
But what it has birthed.
Yeah.
What it has birthed.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we started a day program for people with special needs and getting involved in starting what goes on here at Seacoast. I mean, her life for a little girl with special needs who the world says can't. Well, he sure planted her in a family and fired up the mom and the dad.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful way to see life and to encounter other broken people. Mm-hmm. It's not anything to be feared.
Right. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful, and I think we did a good job. I mean, we talked about a lot of stuff.
We sure did, and you threw a lot of hard questions my way, but hey. Good stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Seacoast Church's Things You Won't Hear on Sunday podcast. You can now become a patron of this podcast and receive exclusive content. Your support goes towards Seacoast ministry efforts in local prisons. Also, be sure to leave us a review and subscribe to this podcast on YouTube for video versions of these episodes. All this information can be found in the show notes. Thanks for listening.